webinar regarding to reduction of food loss and waste and opportunity for climate change mitigation. We're going to wait for 1 minute. We have a good number of people that have registered, and we're going to wait a couple of minutes to start. We would like to greet everyone on their different locations, and in a couple of minutes we will start. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We're sorry for the technical problems. Welcome to our MetLAC, this webinar regarding reduction of food loss and waste, an opportunity for climate change mitigation. This is the Community of Practice MetLAC. We're going to be discussing opportunities to mitigate climate change with regards to reduction of loss, of food lost and waste. Melchorita, go ahead. Yes, I would like to mention that we're going to have simultaneous interpretation. All the presentations would be in Spanish. You're going to be able to check on the lower side of your screen. You can click on the globe icon and choose the language of your preference. You can go ahead. We have two organizations that have a regional scope. And we have some exclusive activities for the member institutions as well as public. And what we try to do is we try to share learning with the community of practice. We would like to share information, and also we would like to promote technologies as well that would help us reduce methane emissions regarding to organic waste. So this is the agenda for today. After this brief introduction, we're gonna start with Graciela Hernandez. She's from ImplementaSur. She's going to introduce our panelists. We have Ana Catalina Suarez Peña. She is a Senior Director for Strategy and Innovation from the Global Food Banking Network. We have Jose Alfredo Arce Chacón. He's the Head of Sustainability from Pozuelo Cookie Company of
I'm
Costa
so
Rica.
sorry at the point
We would
because
like
Maria
to
Jose
apologize in
Vergara, she
advance
was one of
since
our
Maria Jose
panelists as
Vergara, she's a
well,
social
but she
management
had an
manager from
issue
the
and
Food Bank
sadly she
Network of
won't be
Chile. She
participating
had a
at the
health
moment.
problem
So
and she
we will
cannot
have a
be
really
involved in this
rich
discussion, but
discussion
we're
with
going to
both
have
of
a
our
beautiful discussion with
panelists
our two
from
panelists
their
from the point
experience
of view
regarding
of
food
food
banks
banks
and as well
and
as the
also on
sustainability
the
strategy
strategy.
of a particular company.
We have a discussion panel that we're going to have with the audience. And we're going to start with some conclusions from Santiago Uribe. To give you some general instructions, this webinar is being recorded. We have two ways of receiving comments. First, on general comments. If something is not working, you can text us through the Zoom chat. And if you have some questions for the panelists, we can use the Q&A for questions and answers on the Zoom platform. These session materials, and this is something that they ask us often, will be available in the website of MetLAC. You can access via QR, and you're going to be able to access the previous recordings from other webinars. And before starting with our content, I wanted to ask you if you can let us know a little bit about what countries are you connecting from. We have the survey as well. I don't know if maybe you can tell us what country are you connecting from. We have some people that are texting on the chat box. If you can use the poll, that will be awesome. We have people from Puerto Rico, Peru, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Chile, Honduras, Mexico, Colombia. Thank you. And now we are gonna show you this this word image. We have 59 answers approximately. If somebody could give me help by sharing the image. We have Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Honduras, Mexico, Argentina, Paraguay. Thank you for joining us. And we have a second question. Maybe, do you know of any food loss and waste reduction initiative in your country? We have three likely answer. One could be yes, I am involved in one of those initiatives. The second would be yes, I know of an initiative, but I am not involved in it. And the third one would be no. So let's see, how much do you know about initiatives to reduce waste and food loss? We have about 15 or 20% of people that are involved in such initiatives, almost 60% that know about initiatives, but they are not involved. We also have 25% that are not involved at all. Well, let's hope that our session today contributes for you to know more and also strengthening taking action in such field. I would like to thank you once again for being here with us today. And now I would like to welcome Graciela Hernandez so she can continue with our panelists. Graci. Well, now we're going to have Ana Catalina. I'm sure she's going to start soon. We would like to know what are you doing as a network, and we would like to hear from your experience. Yes, thank you, Graciela, and thank you, everybody. I am delighted for being here and to speak. Graciela, are we seeing my presentation? Yes, very good. Okay, my name is Ana Catalina Suarez Peña. I am the Global Director of the Global Food Network, which is the GFN. And I am happy to see lots of people that I know in the chat box. I am seeing people from Peru, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, Colombia. I would like to give a warm welcome to my Colombian friends. And the idea would be to discuss how to mitigate methane, how to accelerate climate action uh, through the recovery and redistribution of food. I welcome you to text or leave your questions in the chat box. I am talking to Maria Jose. She's from the Chilean uh, food banking network, and she's sad for not being here. She couldn't be here for her problems, but she says that she's with us in spirit. And the Global Food Network, we are working with more than 50 countries. Um, we are an international organization. And like I mentioned, we work with more than 50 countries. We are devoted to feed the people on the planet. And the reason why we're talking about feeding people is reducing loss and waste. At the same time, we improve or accelerate access to highly nutritional value food. We share knowledge, we establish alliances, we provide financing to catalyze this help of food banks in the countries that we work with. We are reaching dozens of millions of people each year, and with the help of our allies, I'm sure that this is going to be Jose Alfredo that continues with my work. Uh, but from the work that we do, from the agricultural sector to biohospitability or restaurants, we have a strong decision to reduce uh, food loss, and we are having an alliance with the countries, with the academia, with nonprofit organizations, and there's no doubt that we're also aligned with the media. We have achieved things that we have not achieved before. In the year 1945, the FAO was originated, at 10% of food loss. And now we're talking that we're having 30% of food loss. In each country, we have some changes as well. This was something that happened in 1945, but we went from 10% to 30% in spite of this. You're going to see that working together with other key actors, we managed to establish a public agenda to reduce loss and food waste. And the goal that we have is 50% to 2030. We know that our SDGs are not moving as fast, but we are working on that uh, manner. And we believe that this is a solution for climate change and hunger. The objective is to avoid having to waste food, right? The GFN is the human facade of food safety. We work with the European Food Bank Federation. In the darker green, you're going to see all countries that we're working with. We have 51, more than 59,000 local organizations, 38 million people that we have cared for. They have access to food suitable for human consumption. Last year, we distribute 760 million distributed kilograms, and we avoided food to go to waste. Regularly, this food would have gone to sanitary backfills or informal um, informal dumps. How do we work with these food banks? Well, we work with farming, we work with agricultural farmers as well, we work with fisheries. In Chile, we work with the markets. Within the markets, also with manufacturers and food distributors, we work with supermarkets and retailers, with restaurants, hotels. In some cases, we are working strongly with governments and the UN. Basically, we work with foods that were not able to be distributed. With all of these key actors in this chain, we invite them not to waste food that maybe will not comply with the standards. If something does not comply with the standards, we receive this food, and what we do is we collect, we redistribute them after carefully selecting them, and we verify that we comply with all the um, suitable standards. And we provide that to communities of vulnerability. And that's how we reduce food loss. In this way, we increase providing food to the people that have hunger. Also, we reduce the impact of GEI. I would like to show you this image. I think this is powerful, and this shows a multi-dimension of food loss. Nowadays, we are saying that 30% of food being produced in the world is being wasted. And this is the FAO data related to food loss. We're gonna discuss this in a couple of minutes, but this generates, of course, impact on climate change. We estimate that the uh, worldwide food system is responsible for a huge percentage of greenhouse emission. And wasting food contributes to 8 or 10% of reducing these greenhouse emissions, and 18% comes from waste. So it's estimated that 50% of waste are organic. This is directly related to loss of biodiversity, and 70% of food on the world comes of only 12 vegetable species and 5 animal sources. This is absolutely devastating because it reduces our capacity of resilience towards or in the face of plagues or diseases. And we have seen that nowadays in the world, this has been increasing. Also, we have a reduction of the capacity of food production. By mid of 2050, the growth of the agricultural yield could be reduced up to 30% if is keeps going. And this is serious because this is going to include the vulnerability of this population in the face of poverty or hunger. And after navigating all of this, we have a critical factor, which is hunger in the world. We know that more than 3 million people cannot afford a healthy diet. I'm not talking about blueberries, of course. I'm not talking about lean beef or milk or almond milk. I'm not saying that I am against this type of food, but this is not within the basic foods of every household. And people that cannot afford diet, I'm talking food, this responds to the basic products. Um, 2.4 million people suffer from food insecurity. What does that mean? Is that in one point of the week, they are not going to be able to nurture themselves with the food that they need. And actually, 783 million of people are in hunger. What does that mean? Is that these people in a poll responded that in the previous week they were not able to eat maybe one day or two because they were not able to access food. And this is not because they have a specific diet. This is because they didn't have the resources to have food. And something that you're going to see in my speech or in my talk is that the gender gap is still growing. This is unfortunate because there's gender gaps. As the people that study history say, we are going backwards in history and with the gender gap. The prevalence of hunger in women is 12% more than men. And you're going to see that climate change has a big effect in this. So I was talking also the food banks. Um, this is the food system, and this has some sectors or some phases. Currently, the index of food going in the head are basically the FAO has the responsibility in this. They work with loss of food in transportation, the crops, packaging, and we also have the index of food loss. And this is the UNEP, um, United Nations for Development, and this cares for retailing, basically supervising supermarkets, supply stores, consumption in hotels, restaurants. However, I have been adding a new concept. When we are in urban centers or cities, we don't talk about food loss or food waste. We need to talk about organic waste, right? Food waste as well. And basically, we manage this in the city. This waste is completely associated to the whole supply chain. This is not related to who works with such index. And this is important because in the when we're talking about climate in the world, we're talking about food waste that overlaps the food loss concept, but in the end, it's the same thing. And we need to discuss what's happening on the urban centers. Sometimes I'm going to be discussing food waste. I'm not only going to discuss food loss, okay? But these are the concepts, and I have discussed this as well. Food is not only a basic need because it allows people to prosper. This is critical. And this critical aspect is associated to climate change and the political factors that we're living in Latin America and other countries in the world. This increases vulnerability and capability of resilience. And I would like to discuss climate change and vulnerability. There are some data here that is relevant. For example, the this would explain why do we need to talk about mitigation, but also climate change? We need to discuss justice, we need to discuss resilience, the fund of losses and damages. It's important because we need to enable resources that or third world countries to increase these resources. And also, we know that the World Bank consider that low-income countries have economical losses between 12 and 15% of their uh, gross product. However, this is contributing with less than 12% of global emissions. So that means that the countries that are being greatly impacted in the world are, of course, the countries that are not uh, having as much greenhouse emissions. And the WHO estimated 275,000 additional deaths yearly between 2030 and 2050 on causes related to climate change. And also UNICEF is considering that boys and girls in the poorest community have up to 16 times more probabilities of dying due to climate disasters and environmental phenomena. According to uh, UN women and girls have approximately 14 times possibilities of dying throughout climate disasters. And the last one is that the people that are migrating due to climate problems are women and children. And we should be concerned about this because all mitigation actions should have a possibility to adapt. And we're talking about methane, but Graciela and Anna, we all know this. The pollutants the, on short life are more relevant, and this is an opportunity to reduce greenhouse emissions. Methane, or 30% of current emissions come from methane, and 80% more powerful than carbon dioxide. And out of 100%, 60% of these come from human activities. And from those, between 18% uh, come from waste. And we can estimate that 80 and 90% comes from food. So we could say that the path is easy on us to reduce methane emissions through the prevention of food loss. Something that is relevant and I wanted to discuss in the world is why are we talking about prevention? In the world of waste, we talk about waste management. It's important to manage waste. And what we're promoting from GFN is the priority of reducing waste and preventing waste, not managing it. And there is a powerful message that we have been discussing, and that's that the best waste is the one that is not managed. So there's a bet to prevent waste. Let's mention that when we decide to manage such waste, we are also losing all nutrients of such food. If we decide that the food that was produced to nurture humans is also nurturing animals and composting, we are losing the nutritional density of such foods. And that's why we have created a hierarchy, which is this pyramid. And this has been adopted by the government of the US and the European Commission. And we know that the first two relevant action is to prevent at the source. This is, of course, what Jose Alberto is going to discuss, and Grupo Nutresa as well. But the second thing, if you were not able to avoid the loss in the source, you need to provide or donate this for other people to eat this. So the message would be keeping this in the supply chain. keep most of food in the supply chain to feed people. And just for you to have an idea, in the work that we have with the GFN, sorry, all the food that was distributed, or 58%, has a nutritional value. 20% comes from the agriculture sector. When we are using food, we need to know which food is going to help us to overcome poverty. And we have lots of opportunity. For example, we have attention to the food systems. And of course, this webinar is the uh, response to that. We used to have, for example, climate change discussions over here, and have a different webinar for food or climate change. So we started discussing um, the food system in the framework of climate change. So now we're going to have a trend discussing this relationship between climate change and food systems. The FAO was created in 1945, and we're going to be reducing also the loss of food. In 2012, we have a study that established that we are not going to be reducing 10%, but also 30% of total production of loss. And this will be set in the public agenda, that we are going to be feeding population, but we are not achieving that. And one of the causes, in addition to inequality, is that 30% of the food that is being produced is not being eaten by humans. And then we have the SDGs that has helped us to establish a global route. And we only have the government of multilateral organizations and the UN in that sense. But there are public matters like hunger, for example, like climate change, like poverty. And we have the SDGs. On the first time, we have two things on our climate change. The first thing is that we're not only talking about the UN, we are also having non-governmental entities. And we're going to see the objectives of sustainable development. And the second thing is that we're establishing goals and the objective of production and consumption. We have the indicator 12.3 that helps us to reduce food loss and reduction. So we're gonna be seeing this. We're gonna see a growing change between the pollutants in a short life. We're gonna see that there's interest in the organic waste, and there's an invitation to connect loss and the reduction of loss. We have now a coalition to reduce the organic waste and nutrition, because we're gonna have a direct relationship, and we believe that that's quite powerful and what we're understanding.
So I'm going to wrap up this part of my presentation. But 3 years ago, we created in partnership with the Global Methane Hub the FRAME methodology. This basically allows us to measure the GHG emissions and methane emissions as well, the avoided methane emissions from recovery and distribution of food. So this methodology allows us to measure the SDG 2, SDG 8, and SDG 12, and the SDG 13. So this methodology is right now being applied globally. I will be sharing some details, but this is made for organizations such as food banks or other organizations that are centered on food recovery, can really quantify how they are reducing methane or GHG emissions, as well as their actions for climate change adaptation. It's going to be a very useful tool for estimating food surplus from companies as well. We are working with different governments around the world and specifically in Latin America as well. So all policies linked to this topic, it's basically well together within this framework. So we have the regulations that regulates organic waste. Normally, the housing ministry is the one in charge of this, but there are other governments that follow a different organization. Maybe it's the agriculture ministry or the environment ministry legislating everything that's related to climate change and emissions. That also makes part of the waste management. So we know that there's a lot of work across the, public policies, but what is most important is that we can apply these policies and really have well distribution of food and really feed people with nutrient-rich food. And in GFN network, we're basically working with transparency indicators, integrity, accuracy. So we are having an efficient method that's transparent and will allow us to comply with all the auditing processes, reviews, because we know that at this point there's this ongoing greenwashing perspective, but no, we can have the actual tools to prove that we are doing a good job complying with international standards and international regulations with the SDGs to ensure, of course, that we are having a cross-sectional regulation guidelines. So this methodology includes and identifies a lot of the important information about food, not to have an overestimation of the quantity. This methodology works on a regional context. So what does it mean? For example, let's take that we are in Ecuador right now, but we're also working with Costa Rica, with Paraguay, Colombia, Mexico. And all the emission factors that we're using are basically the public data published on the official government websites. In case they are available, of course, but otherwise we use the data from the World Bank or UN, but obviously the ones that have been already approved by official entities. And we can really use that information to align our indicators for complying with the SDGs, to help with the policy making process as well. So it's a highlight that food waste and food loss should be a project within the decarbonization projects that countries are actually working on for their agenda, for their 2030 agenda. So this is a joint effort, as well as working on sustainability projects for companies. When companies do this very significant effort, is quantifiable, not only in terms of avoided emissions, but as well as how they are impacting on those people in need. So this is more or less how can we see our indicators regarding the avoided emissions, how many food have been used during this assessment, which is the quantity of efforts that we are really doing. So I think I'm going to wrap up because I'm going very fast. I know that I've been a little scattered, but this information is very relevant, and I'm trying to provide an overview of how the sustainable reports for companies are working right now. We have many tools, but what we did was implemented the frame methodology, and we created a report model for organizations that work on food recovery to share that report with their partners so they can continue working on disseminating the importance of their job. So we have a dream, and I want to share that with you, that now the food bank network globally that's working in more than 50 countries around the world and 17 countries in Latin America. It's involving probably more than 40 million people around the world, but our effort, it's not as big as you think. 0.040%. So that's more or less more than 500 tons. But we want to increase that amount. We want to level up to 1%. So we can reach to 13 million rescue food. And our dream is not just to grow by the sake of growing. No, we want to reach to more population around the world. But you may wonder why. Because we want to really improve food quality that's delivered to vulnerable communities. So I try to use this space as a call to action for you, because we want to work together and raise awareness on how we can reach to more and more people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Catalina. I think we're very grateful for everything you're doing around the world. Your presence internationally, it's fantastic. I think we could have the whole day to keep talking about this topic, but I believe that what you're doing, it's something really, really important. So now I'd like to give the floor to Jose Alfredo. Jose Alfredo, perhaps you could share your presentation. He will give us more details about food waste and food loss, but from the private sector perspective. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to give a brief overview of Jose Alfredo. He is the Sustainability Chief of Galletas Pozuelo. He has over 15 years of experience in sustainability. He has conducted projects regarding sustainability and certification on environmental standards. He is with us today sharing some of the initiatives about food waste and loss within the Galletas Pozuelo company. So thank you so much, Jose Alfredo. I believe our audience is really interested in hearing about your experience. What have you done with the company? How can we reduce food loss, food waste? And the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Graciela. Well, again, it's a pleasure for me to be here. I will be sharing my presentation with you and the experience with Pozuelo. It's a little bit of representation of what we have been doing. It's a multinational company that it's basically present throughout Latin America, with having a lot of work on this topic. And with the beautiful presentation that Carolina just made for us, we are very aware of the impact of the food chain, right? Because at the end of the day, we, as individuals, need food, don't we? Is basically part of our core activities during the day. It's the fuel that we need for our activities. So everything that's related to it has an impact in our life. So as well, we need to highlight the environmental and social impacts that causes to waste food. So Compañía de Galletas Pozuelo, our company, it's a cookie company that's located in Costa Rica, and it's following a very marked pattern as other companies in Colombia. But we made a management framework regarding our sustainability and our strategy, where basically what we are doing is working in 3 areas of sustainability: clearly. Most of them are framework within the environmental affairs. And we are working on 3 capacities in environment and circular solutions, as well as responsible supply. So this did not come out of nowhere. This came out from a real necessity, a clear necessity to have a better management for the company. So this is key for society development. And obviously there are many stakeholders as well that require that we take action for the better management in our products. So we had a very comprehensive assessment that involved climate change, our resources management as well, biodiversity as well, circularity, as I said before, because, for example, our products use a packaging. So we know all the efforts we have really conducted to make this packaging environmentally friendly. Of course, there is a core topic, food waste and food loss. And as I was telling you, food is our fuel. And we understand this level of the impacts throughout the life cycle of the production as well. And clearly, as I was telling you, and not only me, but with Catalina as well, there are many impacts regarding nutrition and humankind health at the end of the day. So understanding all this big framework and the importance to preserve those nutrients, the ultimate goal is to generate a positive impact in society. So we've been working in a strategy for food waste and loss. And clearly what we are trying to look for or aim for is to reduce food waste and food loss in a 30% and 50% of food waste. So everything that's related to the production stage and waste or the commercial trading of our products. And this is where we are working with our partners. So clearly, just give me a second. I think I had something here. So of course, there are laws within the organization. There are some processes that are not as efficient or require extra attention from our operations. Sometimes we have non-conforming products or quality incidents during the process, as well as defective doughs. And everything that we can refer as the cookie or dough sweepings. So all those materials, and part of what we understand at food loss that are generated within our operations, is where we are trying to make sustainable efforts. How we are improving the control within our processes to measure its impact. So it's not just about an environmental affair itself or economic. We are trying to look for improvements from productivity, from the process efficiency to have ideal operation procedures. And it's a big effort we're doing to generate circularity within our products. Understanding that cookie production, it's sort of a linear process. So we've been trying to really fine-tune our process, not trying to reverse it and not to make it linear, but circular, where we can really reuse this product or reincorporate it within any part of our cycle. Keeping, of course, the product value with its rich content nutrients as well. Certainly, there's been a lot of actions. I wanted to exemplify this with this graphic, what we are doing at the company. So we had this production of food during the last 4 years. We have generated an impact of 977 tons of food. And we have seek strategies, new processes within our daily production activities, and we have achieved these results. And on the other hand, understanding as well that we are a business, not only in Costa Rica, but as well as the Central American region, we are carrying on certain procedures where we are trying to prevent and avoid food waste. There's, of course, sometimes low product turnover, and each economy has its own, just characteristics. Sometimes we have some waste regarding the damage during the transport or the handling at the customer side, or sometimes even when one of our products are close to shelf life expiration. So we're trying to really manage this with our clients to prevent this from happening. So what we're trying is to really use this product to be tradable, and aside from the income revenue that this will generate, we're trying to look for many ways for this to thrive, okay? So we've been working actively with our partners and our clients, trying to improve in the inventory control from our return policies as well, or even working with other organizations that manage our products, where we have tried to look for having an improved turnover to avoid that the product will become at-risk food because it's close to its expiration date. And of course, to improve, as I said, the turnover, or if it's suitable, to look for donations. So this has been a very, very intensive labor to work on food loss or food waste, because right now we can analyze both different dynamics, because sometimes some of our products are at-risk foods because they are close to shelf life, so we cannot trade them anymore. So our commercial dynamic or our interest regarding our warehouse procedures or the transport procedures have been adjusted to comply with our efforts. So we have been able to achieve donations resulting in 513 tons of food. So we have looked for the most suitable way to achieve this, working jointly with our partners, with food banks or other NGOs or organizations that are working on food for vulnerable communities. So we've been very present with the social efforts, understanding not only the impact at a social level, but as well as in the environmental aspect. Because when we do this, we are reducing many emissions, not only methane emissions, but as well as GHG. So it's a really significant effort. If we don't look for ways to reduce food waste, we're not only impacting at an environmental level, but as well as a social level. So nowadays, we're trying to really do this social work, working with communities in need, and we're trying to improve this part and these actions from the organization. So that's been basically the presentation for me and the case from our company. Thank you so much, Jose Alfredo. It's been an amazing presentation. It's really interesting to know what are the efforts that the company is doing. I think maybe we can imitate part of what you're doing. So it's useful to understand what are the type of activities that you are doing, or if we can really apply those to our own industries. Thank you so much. So now we will have a little discussion. I believe that Ana Catalina and Jose Alfredo will be giving you some overview. We will pose some questions and then we will have a broad question, okay? Ana Catalina, it's going to be the first one. And then the idea is that the specific questions will only be answered within 3 minutes. Okay? So, Ana Catalina, the first question would be regarding your experience, how do you think these initiatives can be strengthened in terms of their alignment with government and corporate climate policies and strategies?
Thank you, Graciela. I was here reading all of the text on the chat box. I'm trying to reply to all of them. I have shared my LinkedIn profile with all of you in case you want to continue after this session with the debate. Just quickly, I wanted to mention that there's a whole space of cooperation between climate change policies and um, food safety systems. And we believe that it is important to manage waste. It's important to avoid waste to be generated, right? And this is where coordination of the policies of organic waste and food safety should be coordinated. And this is something that it is happening around the world. We're expecting this to be promoted in Chile. If we have anybody from Chile, you can discuss this new standard that regulates the arrival of waste to sanitary backfill, sorry. And in some countries of Europe are already stopping any type of waste to arrive into any sanitary backfill. And I believe that such standard is going to be relevant for coordination between the climate world and also the food uh, the, the safety, the food safety world as well. Yes, and as actually there's a lot of improving processes and taking advantage of such food that could comply with certain standards or not. But even though food could still be functional and we could take advantage of this. In Chile, we also have a strategy on food loss strategies. If anybody on the civil society or governmental entities would like to know what's happening in Chile, you're welcome to do so. Within the platforms of our country, you're going to be able to see more information in such regards. I'm sorry. Actually, I am invited to a next webinar on July 10 regarding food loss in Chile. And if anybody is in this country, I would love them to join. Thank you. Yes, thank you for such input. Jose Alfredo, I would like to ask you, how do you introduce this initiative in your business strategy and your climate strategy as well? And how do you involve your client, your stakeholders, and inform them about this? Yes, thank you for this question, Graciela. As I was discussing before, we start from the baseline. That means we need to understand as an organization, how are we impacted? What are the things in our surroundings that could impact us? And some of this comes from managing our waste or our food from our internal process and external processes. We need to understand what happens with our food loss and waste. So if you understand the importance that it has for all the stakeholders as well, we start shaping them in a way to care for such needs. We, of course, we are an organization that produce food. Therefore, it's fundamental that we manage this. Furthermore, one of the things that we were considering from an approach of climate change impact, we are discussing what's happening with the health of our clients or consumers as well. And we need to understand them, understand what's being elaborated from the world as well, from the part of the world. This is the moment when we start with such initiatives. Thank you. Perfect. I wanted to ask you, and this is the second question that we have for you. What would be your perspective on regarding the industry in Costa Rica, in the level of Costa Rica, the Caribbean? What 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 is the interest of such practices? So I don't know if you could discuss your considerations, your remarks. I don't know if you are involved in countries devoted to reducing food loss. Um, I would be interested in knowing what's your view on the ecosystems and the efforts that are happening on such regard. Yes, I think that this is ongoing or growing. We have been involving with more organizations in strategies, and not we're not only talking about strategies from traditional organizations. We're focused on not only the economical side or economical factor. They are interested on sustainability, discussing environmental factors, social features as well, and organizations nowadays, they understand the context, they understand their stakeholders, and this starts becoming a part of the debate in the food industry. Furthermore, I believe that in the end of the day, coming from a sustainable point of view, we need to avoid waste as, as a response to operational efficiency. We're not being efficient in our operation to produce such food. We are losing money in order to generate a product that in the end is not going to be commercialized or sold. So, or sold, sorry. So if we have less waste, it would make us better when it comes to production. We also understand the environmental factor in the midst. So we need to nurture our debate. And at the same time, we believe that the initiatives start caring about this. Nowadays, we are involved, of course, with regards to our process, but our consumers and the market is demanding it as well. And this is shown in the data that Ana Catalina has introduced. We have seen the impact of the food safety worldwide. And as organizations or companies that are devoted to food production, it's something that we cannot overlook. This is a duty as an organization. Yes, thank you. And of course, there is a whole set of information that could back up your decisions. It's providing also a positive um, decision-making process with regards to the environmental impacts and reduction of emissions. I think that mm, part of what Catalina has introduced could help other companies in order to support their decisions when it comes to impact and also reaching key holders or stakeholders in the business. So thank you for your answers, Ana Catalina. I can ask you the next question regarding the work that you do. What do you believe is the best contribution for materializing such initiatives? And along that line, what is the biggest challenge that you have? Yes, thank you, Graciela. Just continuing with Jose Alfredo is saying, I believe that the greater contribution or greatest contribution is prevention of waste. And this is materialized in food banks. I'm in love with this word materializing because we work on this all the time, making things feasible for people, for the well-being of people, tangible. And our contribution can be observed, is tangible, is feasible. And this is something that you were able to see with the report that I showed you. This is something that we can monitor, that we can measure, and we can verify. When it comes to environmental aspects, social, nutritional characteristics as well, we know that 3 million people are accessing food or nurturing that they were not able to access before. And these are highly nutritional food. And we believe that this is completely powerful. Our challenges, and this is what I want to discuss. I'm trying to follow the debate because we have lots of comments on the chat box. Graciela is talking uh, at the same time, and 140 people are here, but I would love to see them in person. But I want to mention that there is a will to manage waste, not preventing waste sometimes. And also discussing the objectives that Jose Alfredo is saying. The work is interesting. This is the approach of the private companies or the private sector. Waste is money. If you throw away food that you produce to be sell or to sell it, you're wasting money. But this is not only the money that you lost. You need a team, a work team. If you have a quality management department, you would need a whole team that would help you manage the waste that you're going to throw out, right? And this is only coming from capital generation, right? You're investing money in managing what you're going to lose, the food that you're going to throw out. So we're still in the logic or in the mindset of managing waste, and we are generating waste all of the time. Food is not supposed to be thrown out. It shouldn't happen. And I'm talking about food that is fitted for human consumption that would follow the standards of food safety. I'm talking about food that is available for human consumption. I'm believing that the biggest challenge at the moment is managing waste into preventing waste and continue collaborating with the agricultural sector, going into our homes even. The food that we are not going to eat should be handled through quality standard that would help them us donate them. Remember, composting, food uh, for animals help us lose the density of this food, nutritional value. So I think that in such sense, we could reduce emissions because this is the biggest opportunity, right? People always ask me if Jose Alfredo reduces their waste and not everything is donation. Well, you're not going to have donations. And I'm saying, look, we are less than 1%. To reach 100%, you need a whole collaborative or collaboration action. Each person is relevant and we all need them. And it's important to mention that in each challenge, there's opportunity. And I think that Jose Alfredo was able notice this in this time to start thinking about the supply chain and also providing donation and starting to reduce food waste. And the last question is related to, based on your experience, what would be the relevant aspect to prepare such initiatives, starting from reducing food loss or waste? And what advice would you provide to an entity that would like to develop such methodologies? Ana Catalina, you can start. What is the most important aspect when developing such initiatives? Yes, I think it's important to discuss adaptation, mitigation. Solutions should be focused on mitigation, yes, but that's not enough. I was discussing all of the numbers from countries such as ours. We have low income countries or medium income countries, and we should not have projects focused only in mitigation. We should include adaptation elements, and at the same time, we should look co-benefits constantly. This is a relevant task that we have right now. Our countries, I will have to say, there's no exception in Latin America. All Latin America countries are the ones that have a high risk of climate vulnerability in the world. So this is not only how to reduce waste, it's also accompanying citizens. I would not like to talk about communities, only communities. No, it's the whole set of people living in Peruvian society, Colombia, Honduras, Guatemala. All of us are going to be impacted because the cost of the food is going to increase, because we're not going to be able to go to areas where we used to go in cars because not going to be possible. The planes are going to get delayed. Climate change is not going to help them to be traveling through the air. So all of this is going to be impacting us. Projects that includes adaptation and co-benefits are going to be highly relevant, and something for you to keep is that it starts with us. And please do not throw food, because I'm sure that the next time that you start eating, whether you are having breakfast or lunch or dinner, and you have the commitment of only having in your plate what you're going to eat and eat everything, or having takeout and eating your whole takeout, you are going to start thinking differently. What happens if I'm not throwing such food or this food? You're going to start thinking about several things, because the next time that you go to have dinner outside, you're going to eat or share the plate or share your dish, or maybe up to the fact that you get the dish in your or your plate in your table, and you say, okay, I'm not gonna eat the whole thing, I'm gonna have this to take out, and then the takeout you can give to somebody else that needs it. Why am I talking about this? All of this is the day to day what we do. I believe that Graciela, each time that orders food, she's going to think, I'm gonna eat the whole thing or not. Also, Graciela, when she authorizes food to be thrown out because we were not able to sell this, should I authorize this or not? Have I asked my team what we could do with this food? What are the solutions are they providing? How much is this costing? How much are we paying for waste management? What did we pay in the last invoice? Why is this invoice growing? So this is where we start having a whole set of questions, thinking about our citizenship and about how professional we are. Yes, and also I would like to invite or involve our auditors on the main ideas that we're discussing in this session. Jose Alfredo, I would like to give you some time to discuss this. What advice would you provide to a company or individual that would like to have changes on reducing loss or food waste? Thank you, Graciela. And I would like to round up a little bit of the ideas that we were just discussing in this space. And one of such ideas involves an holistic vision, which means what's the food system in our organization, like Cosuelo, right? We need to have an integral view of our chain of value and the impact that we're having in each phase. And I would like to include maybe avoiding waste, prevention from the origin or the source. I think that I read one of the comment here in the chat box because everything starts from awareness. Each one of us as individuals and organizations, if we manage to have awareness internally through all of our value chain, I believe that this has a larger impact. And like Ana Catalina was saying, when it comes to food and thinking about the life cycle of food, this grain of rice in your plate has an environmental impact, which is huge. We know that in the end we're losing nutrients, but if we're talking from a point of view, there's an effort, there's devotion from this agricultural sector, right? So it would be quite irresponsible to just throw that out, right? Throw rice out, for example. So from our side, we need to think, what are we doing? What are we generating in future generations? This is, of course, coming from awareness, the awareness point of view. And also the process for us to take action in order not to waste food. And Graciela, you're saying this quite clear. Information, contacts. I believe that we could start generating a debate with them. Uh, if you have a clear diagnosis and you have information of value, I believe that this would enable us to align initiatives that we could start elaborating in our organizations. We need to establish goals, strategies, we need to understand the value chain, and I believe that it would help us elaborate actions to have this reduction of loss. And everything comes from designing our processes. If we start discussing procurement or restructuring our portions, we are going to be able to avoid having lost or waste in our day to day. Thank you. And now I would like to give the go ahead to Montserrat. There are some questions. Uh, We know that there's a lot of interest, and we are going to be answering the the ones that are the most relevant. We would like to thank everybody for their involvement, but I don't want to close this because we still have the Q&A session. Yes, thank you, Jose Alfredo. Thank you, Ana Catalina, for your introduction. Actually, the presentations were quite interesting. Some questions to Catalina. I have seen that both of you have been answering this um, in the chat box, but I believe that there are some questions that are interesting for everybody to hear the answers. Ana Catalina, regarding the food banks, could you tell us if these food banks are using carbon bonds and what institutions are accredited for these bonds? Thank you. Montserrat, I would like to answer something that you have not asked me, but this in the chat box, and I believe that it is fundamental to manage the waste that is already managed. This does not mean that waste should not be managed. Of course, if there's waste, it should be managed. It's fundamental to invest technology to process it and avoid having them in sanitary backfill or open backyard spaces. Generating this is absolutely fundamental. I would like to prevent, of course, and I think that there's opportunities to prevent waste. That's all that I wanted to mention. And I was answering Christian Fuentes regarding the credit bonds. We have a frame methodology, and this was approved by the technical committee of gold standard. This is the technical committee, and we are expecting to have a frame methodology approved by next year with such features, for example, adaptation and mitigation within methodology. We also have had members, and I was answering this to Christian. We have partners. This is our Association of Food Banks in Mexico. 3 years ago, they have been generating carbon credits, and the last one have been sold in Monterrey with the Nuevo León region to reduce the greenhouse emissions for 2030. So I believe Peru is also doing something interesting in that regard. The US have started with food banks, but also organizations that do collection and redistribution. So we have several food banks that are working on such process, and we're quite interested. We're not only interested on the carbon bonds, we're also interested on entering a regulated market. We're doing work in Cote d'Ivoire, Africa, Colombia. We're going to start with Costa Rica. The This is going to help us to contribute to the inventory of emissions towards 2030. And these type of models or methods would enable us to access the bonds and also resources within the systems that each country has created for such purpose. Ana Catalina, I don't know if you could share your experience regarding schools. I would like to ask this because sometimes it's hard. What should we do to food that in the end is going to be wasted when they could be advantage? Yes, I believe that we have been working a lot on this. We need to understand vulnerability on population regarding schools and our companies. We need to understand the quantity of hunger within our workers, our collaborators, and we need to understand if such food are adapted for human consumption and if this is fitted for consumption. I always ask this person, I say, okay, would you eat this? And they say, well, but I don't know the standards. And I ask them, do you love your mother as I love my mother? And the answer is yes. If that answer is yes, would you give your mother this food for her to eat? And that's the best rule or the best standard that you could use. If somebody that you love deeply, if you give them such food, are gonna be eating this or not. So we need to identify what workers within schools or which students need such food. And this is a way to read also the context in which we're in, I believe. Thank you, both of you. You were answering questions internally, and the rest of participants, if there's doubts, you can contact us. You can start investigating or researching on such topics. Um, there's a lot to talk about this, and I would like to give the go ahead to Santiago Uribe so he can um, have a closure on this session. Thank you, Montserrat. Well, I believe we have had a relevant session. This has been a lovely discussion that we have had today. I would like to thank everyone for connecting all over the world. And I would like to discuss something that we have seen. This is urgent. This is full of opportunities. And this is something that we have seen today. The food loss and reduction of waste as a reduction of climate impact. And we were discussing our region and how is it linked to methane reduction. We have been discussing that this is a powerful gas in our community, but sometimes we forget about it when it comes to climate debate, and particularly when it's related to food waste. Ana Catalina helped us land this problem with powerful figures. She said that 1/3 of food in the world is being lost or wasted. And coming from production to consumption, this is 1/3 of greenhouse emissions. If we go deeper into this look, we could say that food waste is about between 8 and 10% of greenhouse emissions, including that more than 700 million people are going through hunger. And we know that many of them cannot pay for a healthy diet. We know that there is a injustice, climate injustice, and this comes to force when we talk about vulnerability and risk of climate change in our regions. And adaptation and co-benefit measurements will be important. We have seen that there's frame methodology that helps us reduce emissions from recovery analysis, efficiencies, and the MRVs are also a first step to mobilize resources and also discuss this with the international community. And also discussing this goal of the Global Food Network is going up to 50% when it comes to food reduction up to 2030. And if we start moving into our governments, the civil society, I believe that this is important. And then we have Jose Alfredo from Galletas Pozuelo. We know that the private sector has a key role, and they are performing its duty. And we understood that in order to reduce loss, we needed to hear our clients, understand the value chain, how is it impacting their business strategy. And they were able to identify the causes of waste. They took concrete decisions to reduce the surplus and also generate economical benefits as well as reputational benefits. And the greater thing is that there is a systemic look into this. We should add our brains into it as well, and we have certainties of this. The food loss is not only about solidarity, this is not humanitarian. This is related to climate action, which is urgent. We have solutions, we are being implementing that have been implemented, and we have a role to play from the institutional to the individual side. Thank you for being part of this debate. Thank you for hearing, sharing, asking. Let's keep inspiring each other. Please connect to our webinars for everybody that knows us. We have our open webinars, and I would like to say something. We have the materials, all the presentations of the webinars in such link. We would like to invite you to enter our websites, start debating with us, follow us on our social media, and please visit our website. In here, you're going to be able to download the presentations and you're going to be able to watch this webinar again. Thank you, everyone. And until a next webinar, see you soon.